engineer in China has been doing. If you take an open wire and put it down the middle of a spring, when you push down the button that's attached to the top of the spring, that wire will bend and touch the spring, and then all of a sudden you got a button, push it down. Kind of simple mechanism. So here's a couple of experiments. This one's kind of like these roller discs. On the sides of the roller discs is these circuit boards, hand etched, just painting on these streaks. What these streaks will do is that when there's a line of energy given to it, it'll unroll the energy pattern, so that what you'll see is kind of like the first one goes off, the second one goes off, third, fourth. And since it's rotating in a circle, you don't have to start it again, it just keeps going. But you've seen this before, you got Christmas lights at home and they just go blink, 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 blink. But those are controlled by usually a capacitor or some kind of electronic component, even a timer chip. But this is just physical. It's just something that's turning. You turn it the other way, it goes backwards. Here's another thing to open up an electronic frog and found this thing I call a gravity sensor. It's basically these prongs on each side of a box and a bearing inside the box. The bearing falls and hits this side, sends off energy. The bearing falls and hits the other side, sends off energy. So you have an up-down designator. If you put 8 of them beside each other or in a bracelet, then all of a sudden you've got 16 different variations on the tilt or the gravity. Here's a bracelet. Here's one of those modules. It's got lights on both sides. Just an aluminum puffball in the middle. This thing called pulse width modulation is what controls lots of motors these days. All it is turning something off really fast. And you turn it on really fast. And to your eye, when it's doing it like 4,000 times a second, it looks like it's at half power. If it's doing it 8,000 times a second, I think it looks like it's fourth at power. So the faster the pulse width modulation is going, the dimmer it looks. You can do it for a motor, you can do it for a light. And I think it's counterintuitive, like the higher the frequency, the dimmer it looks. If you haven't learned a little bit about digital, here's a little quick idea. The organic world will give you something that's kind of real, say a triangle. When a digital computer system makes a copy of it, it doesn't take control of every micro now. It has to cut it up. And so it'll say take 8 samples of something that originally looked like that. It'll look like this, because you don't even get that together line. That's sound. Your ear can't really worry about it because your ear kind of blends the snapshots together. For a picture, resolution, if you ever use Photoshop, you zoom in on something, it turns into squares. The original object was infinite in texture, or at least, like electron microscope can see past light. It's got a lot of realism. It's the world. Make a picture of it, it turns into pixels. And then what do you see when you look at it? You see kind of like a blocky, interconnected thing. This word interpolation means that you take something that's got less information and then you kind of scale between. So if you have 1 and 10 and you want to make it smooth, just go 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. It's kind of inherent in the simplicity that you can put the gradation between it. This thing over here is made out of chicken wire that's felted with steel wool. I gave it a little tug. They turn off, they turn on, based on who's touching this electrified fence. These little guys are amazing. They're music wire. They have a nice, straight, innate state. But they also will bend, unlike most metal. Here's the front of one of those boards. This all resulted out of doing wind chime experiments. If you take an electric baton and touch a piece of steel that's connected to a light, the light will go off. If there's some chain on the baton, it'll make it clang. So you get the sound of the clang and the light of the inductive connection. Here's a pair of wind chimes I got at home. I guess they're more xylophones, wind chimes. Here's one that will automate itself. You have a bunch of pieces of steel, all of them are connected to a different light, and you got the wind chime stuff in the middle. As soon as it moves back and forth, the rectifier kind of a mini light show. These are experiments based on an artist named Harry Bertoya from Pennsylvania. He died of taking in the inhalations of using these really cool metals for making these. These are sound sculptures. I discovered that you can electrify them because that's just my thing. And if you put lights on each one and you make a checkerboard, half of them are wanting positive energy, half of them are wanting negative energy. When they touch, you get a shimmer. And I think I might have a video of that. Here's a light record player. It's got all these buttons. Unlike a copper board, this is a piece of metal disc. And instead of etching away and making separate areas of send to this light, send to this light, I'm letting the lights be separate. And then all that the board does is give energy to any lights that are touching the raw metal. So you print a concentric picture, and then it goes to the record player and makes lights. I'll show you what it looks like in a little while. A little diagram of it. Same thing but different. This guy is a spinner. He goes like this. He's got all these metal prongs. It's kind of monophonic. You only see one at a time. Each prong is connected to a light. When it spins, the one light that's hitting the electricity. So this one's always on. Picture changes. Kind of cool. Theory for that. If anyone's overwhelmed, wants to take in this stuff later, just check out my website. I got some DVDs to give out to people that are extra interested in business cards so that you can check out the website. Get the spelling right later. This guy looks like corn. I made him so I could do some audio spatializations. Welded a bunch of speakers to kind of like a big corn god sculpture. And you have these like ramps of electricity. You just remember you've got a speaker, a boombox. You put the speaker wires into the electric grid, and then you just rub up and down, and then the sound travels up and down the sculpture. Electricity can be sound, electricity can be information encoded into a radio signal. It's pretty crazy what can hide inside of a piece of metal. This is an experiment I took to Harvest Works in New York. I was all about just putting a bunch of lights on a bunch of nails, putting them in resin. They're the equivalent of those nail boards. Put your hand in it, it raises all the nails. It's minimalist art. But this time you put your hand on it and you see the lights over here. I did a presentation with this guy. Just a little light board, 14 inches long, but it was controlled by a bunch of teeny nails that's in just a 2-inch square. I called it kinetic amplification, where just one little thumb, if you wanted to, this little gesture right here, could affect a light board that was, feet long. Makes you feel cool when you're doing something small and making something large happen. Here's a bunch more of those grids. One other experiment this led to was just welding a bunch of nails to a board and then making a pachinko machine. As the bearing rolls past all the nails, it can send electricity to them. And you get to see the path of the bearing as it flows through the nails. Here's another light board reconstructed from a basketball screen or a basketball scoreboard. And again, here's another little way of sprucing up something you got around the house. You have a keyboard, connect a wire to underneath of every key, have like a long rail of energy on the bottom. As soon as you press down the white key, it sends the light on. I spent a lot of time just like routing. So the first one goes to light on the bottom, and then consecutively making like a clockwise motion around the board. This guy is just the same theory as the light record player. You connect this wire to any metal surface. All these prongs rub across it, and whichever one can pick up something sends light up. So if you print art on metal, you electrify the metal, and then you kind of like X-raying or taking a decoded version of the object. Here's a little picture of the pinball game I did. All these random bearings can just take their own route through this board. Bottom is electrified, insulation, just a piece of foam. Bearing covered in steel wool. Steel wool is just like a wonder object because it's fluffy and conductive. And as soon as it touches this light, it goes off.